Joining us now is Kāinga Ora National Services General Manager Nick Mailing. Nick, good morning.
Good morning.
Why has it taken you so long to do something?
We've been working on this problem for a long time. We've moved about 142 people over the last year out of communities where there's been situations of really serious antisocial behaviour. It's something that our tenancy managers go out every day and deal with around the country. But we've absolutely been listening to the public over the last few months, and we think there's more that we can do to address some of the most serious situations faster.
OK, well, it's good to hear that the media pressure is working. Can you, for those tenants, when you say 142 people have been moved on to get them out of situations that might be affecting them, are you talking about the culprits or the neighbours?
It'll be a combination, depending on what the best solution is in the circumstance. Often it will be the household at the centre of the disruptive behaviour itself.
Do you know what proportion of those 142 were the neighbours that had to be moved because of bad tenants, or the bad tenants themselves?
Not off the top of my head, no.
OK. So the change that you've made, is this a change that Kāinga Ora has decided will be made, or is it because the Minister's put pressure on you?
We've been absolutely talking to the Minister about this. Like us, she too has been listening to the public conversation, and we've been working through with her how we're going to respond to it. OK,
so this is because of the sustaining tenancies policy you had, right, where the government said we don't want to make anyone homeless, so don't kick anyone out no matter how bad they are. You're now saying that was a stupid idea.
We've got a really tricky societal problem to deal with here. There's no silver bullet for it. We have competing outcomes that we've got to try and balance. So we've got obligations to the people living in our homes, we've got obligations to the people living around them, and Parliament's also asked us to do a tricky social role in the middle of a housing crisis. So we're trying to find the right balance between sustaining tenancies and addressing situations of severe antisocial behaviour quickly. And we're picking up some new tools under the Residential Tenancies Act, which will enable us to deal with those most serious cases faster.
It's interesting you're saying that Parliament's put you in a really tricky situation. That's very interesting language from Kāinga Ora. Are you saying this is actually too hard for you? Would you prefer the ability to actually just evict people if you believe they are bad tenants and not to worry about the homeless problem?
Parliament's given us a role as a social housing landlord and a set of outcomes to achieve. We do not believe that making people homeless solves problems. It compounds them. We were making people homeless for quite a number of years, and so we have quite a lot of experience in this area. We believe sustaining tenancies and finding a balance between doing so and addressing these situations of antisocial behaviour is the best way forward, and we're trying to find that a better balance through picking up the use of these tools.
But what about,
if you like, we're trying to find a middle ground.
Fair enough, but what about the problems you are creating and have created? There are children, really vulnerable children, living in homes with neighbours like the ones we have just seen, like in Whangarei, the case we explained last year, where an 82-year-old man was told he would have his throat slit by his neighbour and the tenants were still living there. What about those other societal issues? Are you paying mind to them?
We're extremely mindful of that. We are dealing with that at the coalface every single day. The situations that we've heard over the last few months are entirely unacceptable. They're unacceptable to us.
So why weren't they kicked out?
The challenge is how to address them. We have been moving people quite proactively. As I said, we've moved 142 in the last 12 months.
Where to?
The challenge is how to address this problem. I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch what you said there.
So you said that you're moving people, but you're not evicting them. So where are you moving them to? You're just passing the buck down the road.
We found that when we move a household because of an antisocial behaviour situation, many people do take the opportunity to make a fresh start and they change their behaviour. There's a small number of cases where that doesn't happen and they're really tough, and we need to work really intensively with social services to tackle those households.
OK, so what percentage of cases you move on reform and become good neighbours?
A considerable proportion of them. I'm just trying to remember the numbers and can't off the top of my head, but if you take 142 of those people we've moved recently, I think there's only about 16 cases in the last 4 years where we've had to move people more than once.
Okay, that's interesting. What about the wait list? Because this is the problem people say. You know, we have Kāinga Ora, well, prospective Kāinga Ora tenants contacting us saying, I'm on the wait list, and there are people who are doing really bad things to their neighbours and they get to keep a house. I'm a good person, I'm a really good tenant, I'll look after the place. What do you say to those people?
We're building houses as fast as we can to house you. That's a critical priority of ours, and we've got about 600 construction sites around the country at the moment where we're building those houses to house those people.
What's the threshold? Because this will be important for cases going forward when people contact us or other media outlets. What's the threshold? It's within a 90-day window. What do you have to do? I think the wording that you've used is serious incidents or incidents of a serious nature. What do you have to do in order to get the boot?
So there's a legal threshold set down in the Residential Tenancies Act. Each case will have to be looked at based on its circumstances, and the Tenancy Tribunal will do the same. We believe that significant disruptive behaviour, the kind of which we've seen in some of the cases recently, will absolutely meet the threshold for those notices. So to give you some examples, the party in Whangarei where people trashed cars and multiple arrests occurred and there was intimidation and drunken activity all over the streets, that would absolutely meet the criteria for an antisocial behaviour notice in our view. And similarly, cases of intimidation and shouting and abuse and so on that were persistent and reoccurring would similarly meet the threshold for using the notices that we're proposing to use.
And evidence, that's the other important point, isn't it? You must have evidence of that. So you've got to have video.
We need to be able to... That's right. Part of the challenge we often face is what's an antisocial behaviour situation versus a neighbourhood dispute. And what we need to, in order to use these notices and then take a case to the Tenancy Tribunal, is to be able to evidence the claims that have been made, whether that's through multiple witnesses or the information from the police or other sources. That's what we need.
All right. Just very quickly before we go this morning, as I said, there have been tenants who've lived through years, months and years of abuse, and they feel that nothing was done. Now that you concede the policy was the wrong one, you say sorry?
We are absolutely listening to what those people have been saying. We get it. We're dealing with this every day ourselves, people at the front line. We're talking to these neighbours. In situations where we should have acted faster, yes, we will say sorry.